Stop whatever you're doing right now. 48 hours that transformed a failed colonel into the general who saved the Union. April 6, 1862. 5:20 in the morning. A man is waking up in the middle of a storm of bullets. You know that person at work everyone underestimates? The one who seems a bit lost but always delivers results. That was exactly how Ulysses Grant was seen in 1862. This really happened. And Bruce Catton discovered, after years of analyzing military documents and official reports, that these specific 48 hours didn't just change Grant. They changed the entire fate of the American Civil War. In 48 hours, Grant went from an unconcerned commander to the man who saved 40,000 Union soldiers from one of the largest ambushes in military history. We're talking about the Battle of Shiloh, one of the bloodiest of the Civil War. Grant was literally having breakfast when 44,000 Confederates attacked his camp. Look at this! In a matter of minutes, Union soldiers were running in total panic. But wait. 24 hours before this battle, Grant had just written to Washington, "I do not expect a general attack from the enemy." 24 hours later, he was commanding one of the greatest counteroffensives in American military history. What the hell happened that transformed Grant from an overconfident commander into the strategist who changed the course of the war? Stick around, because you are going to discover how Bruce Catton documented these 48 hours that revealed Ulysses Grant's true military genius. And it was the historian Bruce Catton who discovered, through letters and military documents, how confident Grant was before Shiloh. March 1862. Grant had just conquered Fort Donelson, his first major victory. For the first time in the war, a Union general had forced an unconditional surrender from the Confederates. The Northern newspapers were calling Grant a hero. Lincoln finally had a general who won battles. Grant was camped at Pittsburgh Landing, Tennessee, near a small church named Shiloh. His mission? Wait for General Buell's troops, and then march to Corinth, Mississippi, a strategic Confederate railway hub. But Grant didn't know that General Albert Sidney Johnston was gathering 44,000 Confederate soldiers just 30 kilometers away. And that's where things get insane. Grant was so confident he didn't even order the construction of defensive trenches. "I do not expect a general attack from the enemy," he wrote to Washington on April 5, 5:20 a.m., April 6, 1862. Grant was at Cherry Mansion in Savannah, Tennessee, 14 kilometers from the main camp. He had injured his foot a few days earlier and was recovering. Listen to this. Grant was literally having breakfast when he began to hear the sound of artillery in the distance. At first he thought they were just minor skirmishes, soldiers testing the enemy lines. But then a messenger came galloping. "General, we are under massive attack!" Bruce Catton documented that Grant immediately mounted his horse and rode 14 kilometers to Pittsburgh Landing. During this ride, he could already tell that the noise wasn't from a skirmish. It was the sound of an all-out battle. When Grant arrived on the battlefield, the scene was pure chaos. Thousands of Union soldiers were running towards the Tennessee River. Many had abandoned their weapons. General Sherman, who would later become famous, was bleeding from shrapnel wounds on his face, shouting orders no one could hear amidst the panic. And now comes the part that changed everything. As Bruce Catton documented through officer testimonies, Grant arrived in the middle of the greatest military chaos the Union had seen so far. Panicked soldiers, confused commanders, completely broken defensive lines. And then Grant did something no other Union general had done until then. While other commanders were concerned with retreating, Grant refused to fall back. He literally told his aide-de-camp, "Retreat? No, I propose to attack at this point." In the midst of the chaos, Grant began to reorganize the fleeing troops. He set up a defensive line near the Tennessee River. But wait, it gets better. Grant realized something that all the other commanders had missed. The Confederates had started the attack at dawn and had been fighting for more than 6 hours. They were exhausted. Bruce Catton discovered through military reports that Grant sent messengers to General Buell. "Bring reinforcements. We will counterattack at dawn." While his own officers were suggesting a retreat, Grant was planning a counterattack. April 7th, 5 a.m. During the night, General Buell's troops had arrived. Grant now had 25,000 fresh soldiers to add to the survivors of the first day. And that's when Grant showed why he would become the most important general in the Union. He organized a coordinated counterattack on 6 different fronts. This was something revolutionary by the military standards of the time. The Confederates, who expected to end the battle on the first day, were completely caught by surprise. Bruce Catton documented that in just 4 hours of counterattack, Grant regained all the ground lost the previous day. General Johnston, the supreme commander of the Confederates, was killed in the battle. The Confederate leadership went into total collapse. By 2 p.m. on the 7th, the Confederates were in full retreat back to Corinth. Grant had turned the Union's greatest potential defeat into its first major offensive victory of the war. But then things get even more insane. The casualties were brutal. 23,000 dead and wounded in 2 days. More than all previous American wars combined. Bruce Catton concluded that Shiloh was the moment Grant discovered his true identity as a military commander. Before Shiloh, Grant was seen as a regional commander with some luck. After Shiloh, he became the general who did not retreat, the man who turned defeats into victories. Lincoln was under massive political pressure to fire Grant after the Shiloh casualties. Northern newspapers were calling for his head. But Lincoln replied, "I can't spare this man. He fights." These 48 hours set the standard that Grant would use for the rest of the war. Never retreat, always counterattack. Use numerical superiority intelligently. And do you know what the final result was? Grant became the supreme commander of all Union forces in 1864, leading to the final victory in the war. Shiloh was the laboratory where Grant learned to be the general who would ultimately defeat Robert E. Lee at Appomattox. What Bruce Catton discovered was that these 48 hours revealed something fundamental about leadership under extreme pressure. Grant didn't change because he became a brilliant strategist overnight. He changed because he refused to accept defeat when everyone around him had already given up. If this story inspired you, leave a like. It helps the channel a lot. And tell me, what decisive moment in the Civil War do you want me to cover in the next video? Always remember, sometimes 48 hours are enough to change not only your life, but the course of history.